live. Just gonna let people join.
Live?
Uh-huh.
We is live.
I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette before we start.
I'm back here picking my nose. Nobody tells me we're fucking live.
You're the fucking squirrel. Nobody fucking cares if you're picking
What
your
the
nose.
fuck? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about me. It's okay. Fuck the fat guy. Nobody gives a shit. Fuck it.
Oh God.
I bet you a fucking pierogi. Nobody gives a shit, Lisa. What's going on here? Did you leave? Bye, Lisa. Bye, Lisa.
She went to go have a cigarette.
I can hear you. I'm going to have a cigarette. Leave me alone, jerk.
Bye, Lisa. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fucking Squirrel, Lisa, and Doris show. I'm your host, Squirrel. If you don't like that, fuck you. Along with me is Doris. We're going to start talking wrestling before Lisa comes back and hijacks the shit.
Oh, God. This is going to be fun.
Either that or we can exchange food recipe. Huh?
Mark just went by and gave a little wave. See him in the dark looking like a creeper?
He's creeping back there.
Hello, Susan. Hello, my sister Donna. Thank you very much.
I see him.
Let me.
Oh, I see him because I'm watching the old fucking stream. God, I'm an idiot. I'm watching the YouTube side. There I am. I just saw him. I'm like, oh, there he is again. That's why I was waving.
Oh,
God. I was watching the old. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Give me one of those nights, folks. Give me one of those nights. If it ain't any time throughout the night, I embarrass anyone. I just want you to know. I don't give a fuck.
Hello, Susan. Hello, my sister Donna.
Is that you?
Thank you very much. I don't think that's me.
Lisa. Oh, I see him. I'm watching the old fucking stream. God, I'm an idiot.
Nope, I'm muted. God damn it, Mark. Mute the damn computer, Mark. Hey, Dave. So apparently you got to hear an echo until Lisa comes back to her computer. Gaffa. Hello, my Donna.
Is that you?
I don't think that's me.
Lisa.
Nope, I'm muted. God damn it, Mark.
I was muted talking.
Computer, Mark.
I was all excited. I got a kiss from Gaffa.
Hey, Dave. So apparently you got to hear an echo until Lisa comes back to her computer.
Fucking Lisa.
You know, and Lisa said it was going to, then I don't know what that is, Mark, but Lisa's box is highlighting every time it goes off. Mute your damn computer, woman.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit is right. What are you doing over there? You're like, I'll open up the chat and deal with it when I come back. And all of a sudden, boom, on comes the live stream. The amazing thing is it's still on.
Why go away? Why isn't it going away?
I don't know why it's not going away, Lisa, but.
There, it's gone. Hello?
We're still here. I'm smoking a cigarette, so I shut my camera off. I don't know what Squirrel's doing.
I was hiding. I was just hiding. That's all. I was just hiding.
Okay,
That's
so.
all.
Joseph Girl.
Hello, everybody in chat. Hello.
Let me guess. Joseph Grohl said, woo. He did.
He did,
He
yep.
did say woo. So, Mr. Grohl, for you, I have woo.
Okay, so for everybody that doesn't know why we're here tonight to talk about the Gabriel Fernandez case. Tonight is just an introduction for the people that don't know about it. There is going to be some photos, nothing graphic tonight. Shut up, gamer. You had me going for a minute.
I know, right?
Oh, gamer. You know how to make my heart stop. Fucking introduction like that, interrupting me and everything. Oh, gamer. Anyways. So it's the Gabriel Fernandez case we're discussing tonight. We're just gonna do an introduction tonight in case people don't know about the case. Um, in the chat, the Nightbot will be dropping a Facebook link. If you don't have Facebook and you would like to donate to one of Gabrielle's foundations, uh, you can contact me or Doris Bashful. We have it. I can give it to Squirrel. So if you want to contact him, he can have it. Yes, because Squirrel, he loves me. Um, um, hey Josie. Hey, hanging with Mr. J. All right, so I don't think I'm gonna. I have to play this before I start getting into the story. Um, I don't have to, but I'm going to just because I'm using other people's pictures, and I want to show as much respect to the family as possible because it
Excuse
is
me, I'm
their
sorry.
family.
Here, let me mute myself.
He's gonna fucking burp again.
I
I
did.
want to
I'm
show,
sorry.
and just so everybody knows, whatever super chats, whatever ad revenue we make during this stream goes to straight to Gabriel's one of his foundations that's made in his name. So no proceeds from this is the round table keeping. It is all going to whatever is set up for him. I wanted to make that clear too, so no one accuses the round table of benefiting off this child's story, because that is not what we're doing.
Hello, Shane.
Hello, Shane. Hello, Ron. Okay, so I'm gonna play this real fast.
Hey, Shandog.
Hey, Shane. Oh, I said hello. Hello to everyone I may have missed. Okay. So, I gotta move y'all out the way.
I mute myself because I belch a lot, and then I talk and I'm muted. Who is Bangong PH?
Hey, Anthony.
Over that one.
My computer cooperates and brings up the pictures.
Huh. Gamer, I think I've seen some of those. I think you're right. Porn videos with that same entrance.
Well, be jealous gamer that my porn's better than
I've been
yours.
asking around. I'm trying to find out, is the current porn that's coming out these days, are they wearing masks? I want to know.
Hey, we're not talking about porn. We're talking about this 8-year-old's death. The shenanigans for after the Gabriel stream.
Listen, Tony, don't make me go over there and whoop your ass.
Are we getting somewhere? Is my computer going to cooperate with me?
Watching you.
Stupid.
You're
Okay.
in trouble, gamer.
So, everybody, this is 8-year-old Gabriel. Gabriel. So Gabriel was born on February 20th of 2005 in Palmdale, California, to his biological mother, Pearl Fernandez, and his biological father, Arnold. I can't say his last name. I don't want to.
Andreas, I think.
Right. Thank you. Collaborate with me? Okay. Paul was 22 years old when she gave birth to Gabriel. Gabriel was the youngest of the 4 children. This is what Gabriel looked like before the abuse and torture started.
Like that hat.
He was a very healthy young
Entertaining,
man.
looked like.
So this is I'm gonna put up Pearl's picture now, so you know the mother who I'm talking about. Because now we're going to go into talking about Pearl, his mother.
It's in the Gabriel's mother folder. Boom. Pearl. It wasn't the Gabriel's mother.
This is Pearl, and this is the stepfather.
Oh, there they are.
Um,
Wow. She, I think she had some surgery on the lips done, maybe.
no, that's just Spanish way.
That's the way she
wore her makeup.
Where's her lipstick?
wore her makeup.
Oh, it looks like they were like collagen.
Yeah, she wasn't very good at doing
Okay.
lipstick, apparently.
You guys are.
So this is a little background on Pearl. During her childhood, her father was in and out of jail, and Fernandez has claimed that her mother did not love her and would hit her as a child. At the age of 9, Fernandez began using methamphetamines and drinking alcohol. And at age 11, Fernandez decided to run away from home. She dropped out of school in the 8th grade. As a teenager, Fernandez claimed that her uncle attempted to rape her, and that some men held her hostage for a period of days, taking turns raping her, which led to her having suicidal thoughts while at the hospital recovering. She has 4 children. Arnold is her, and then including Gabriel. There's a son, Ezekiel. How do you say his name?
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel, and her daughter is what's the daughter's name again?
I want to Virginia.
Virginia, yes. We talk about the children more later on, the rest of the children. When Gabriel was born, she abandoned him at the hospital 3 days after his birth. However, she regained custody of Gabriel in 2012. She claims that many of her romantic partners, including, we're going to call him Tony because that's what everyone else called him. That's him right here, the stepfather. Hold on. I lost my spot. Including Tony, was abusive to her. However, Elizabeth, Fernandez's aunt, and her husband claim that Fernandez falsely portrays herself as a victim, and that it was Fernandez who was the abusive and controlling towards her romantic partners. Additionally, Fernandez has pending charges against her for threatening and stabbing Arnold. Arnold is her 4 children's father. In the months following Gabriel's death, Pearl reported abusing opiate drugs, oxycodone, and narco. Fernandez has been diagnosed with several mental health issues, including depressive disorder, developmental disorder, a possible personality disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. In 2011, Fernandez took a cognitive ability test, scoring in the 3rd percentile in the verbal comprehension portion of the test, which is on par with the typical 2nd grade student. Clinical psychiatrist Deborah S. Morrow stated that Fernandez is virtually unstable to use thoughts to guide her behavior and control her emotional reactions. Currently, Fernandez is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for first-degree murder with special circumstances of torture at Central California Women's Facility. She was admitted to the facility on June 21st, 2018. Like I said, any questions so far? Anything? The lips are yes, it is Dustin. Is there any questions so far? Anything anyone wants to say before I continue?
No, please continue.
Shout out, Tony. Okay, so like I said,
You
Gabriel.
asked me. God
Tony. Doris, do you have anything you want to say?
The only thing I want to say is I believe her family has denied all of the allegations that she made that happened to her in her childhood. So I don't believe any of it was ever proven. Like of the
It's not fair.
rape.
Doris had
and-
more time than I did to think about it.
Here's another picture of Paul. This photo was taken during sentencing.
She looks a
Where she
lot
got to
different.
make her
Oh,
statement.
except
We're
for
not
the
going to
guy-
get into
the guy
that
back
right
there.
now because this woman's statement really pissed me off. But we'll get into that when we talk about the trial. Does the chat have any questions thus far?
Everyone seems pretty familiar with this case. A lot of people were talking about how she needs to burn in fucking hell for what she did. So
Yeah, the case was one of Netflix's highest ranking documentaries. They said.
Donna, it wasn't the boyfriend. It wasn't him that was in and out of prison. Hold on. It wasn't him. It wasn't Tony that was in and out of prison. It is her kid's father that is in and out of prison. And
Donna, I think Donna's mistaken. She's thinking of the Tiger King. I think. That's
yeah.
going on.
This
was
is
in
the
Netflix show.
stepfather that helped to beat and torture and eventually murder Gabriel. He was not in and out of prison. Hey, Kathy. The kid's father was in and out of prison, and his prison stints have nothing to do with Pearl. Has never had anything to do with Pearl. It is on totally different charges.
Right, and none of them were
Violent.
crimes per se.
Right.
It was mostly for theft and
Right.
dealing drugs.
Right. He's a street criminal with no violent record.
Just the way our pictures are set up on the side over here. I don't know how everybody else is, but Lisa's on top, then me, and then Doris on my screen. And this bitch is eye fucking you right now, Lisa. She's not happy.
I'm sorry.
I'm sitting there looking at her.
Maybe
I'm
it's because your name is Tony.
I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, whoa.
Okay, so like
looks
I said before, Gabriel was born on February 20th to Pearl and Arnold. You'll see a picture of their father later on. Shortly after Gabriel's birth, Pearl put the custody of Gabriel to his great uncle and his boyfriend. The great uncle's name was Michael and his partner name was David. They continued to raise Gabriel for 4 years. In 2009, 4-year-old Gabriel moved in with his grandparents. Due to the grandfather objecting to Michael and his partner David raising him in a same-sex relationship. Now, the grandparents Gabriel moved in with was Pearl's parents. He lived with the grandparents until 2012 when custody of him was given to his mother, Pearl, and her boyfriend, we're going to call him Tony. Despite concerns for his welfare expressed by the family throughout the 8-month stay, people please remember that, 8 months. 8-month stay in the household, Gabriel was abused and tortured. On May 22nd, 2013, Gabriel Fernandez and Tony severely beat Gabriel, and he was transported to the hospital by emergency services. He was declared brain dead and was taken off life support at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles on May 24th, 2013. His official autopsy declared his cause of death to be blunt force trauma commingled with malnutrition and neglect. At the time of death, Gabriel was 4 foot 1 inches tall and weighed 56 pounds. So Gabriel had 2 siblings and attended the first grade at Summer Wind Elementary School with his teacher Jennifer Garcia. Garcia described Gabriel as a kind child who enjoyed attending school. So this is the facts that we know about Arnold, uh, Gabriel's father. He was in prison during his son's torture and murder. Arnold has been in and out of prison for years and was actually in prison when Gabriel died. NBC Los Angeles reported that during Tony's sentencing trial, Arnold shared that he was in jail at Riverside County in 2013 when he found out that his son was on life support after being gravely beaten. The father shared how he experienced feelings of guilt and helplessness, he said. I should have been there. And that he was struggling to express his feelings when he heard the news from the prison chaplain. According to the state of California's Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, Arnold is listed as being incarcerated in Calipatra State Prison for nonviolent offenses. It is unclear what the charges is, but Arnold was admitted on February 11, 2019 and became eligible for parole in June of 2019. Any questions?
No, just fucking devastated.
Hey, Terry. Hello, Terry. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Hot Rod.
Hey, Hot Rod. Thank you all, 23 people that is in the chat. We're just kind of going over a little bit, an introduction before we get into everything. I'm going to change the picture. Since we are talking about Gabriel's father. This is Pearl and Tony the night they got arrested for Gabriel's death. These are their mugshots.
Yes, Terry, it is very sad. That's one of the reasons why we decided to do this. Partly to not only talk about Gabriel, but talk about the situation in whole, as far as like the DCS people and things going on in the world.
Right. And this is them on vacation. I'm not exactly sure when this picture was taken, but this is Pearl and Tony on vacation. So yeah, that's Tony and Pearl. And now we're going to put up pictures of the dad and the rest of the family.
A lot of people don't realize that Pearl did have 4 children, like Lisa said. One of her sons, who's named Arnold after the father, she did the same thing she did with Gabriel and gave him up at birth to his Arnold's, who's on the screen now, his parents, and never took him back.
The man that we are presenting on screen right now, that is Arnold, that is Gabriel's father. This picture was taken when he was not incarcerated and came and spoke at the trial about his father's death. I mean, his son's death, I'm sorry. Terry said, I had a best friend that was beat to death by his mom and boyfriend. Last time I saw him, he walked home from school together. Happened when was in elementary school. Yes, Terry, there is some of Gabriel's classmates that spoke. There was this one young girl in particular. I did not get her name because she is a minor, and well, at the time she was a minor. And I was gonna talk about her, but I didn't want to give out her name. She was very upset, as was some of other Gabriel's classmates, because they knew about the abuse Gabriel was going through, and he spoke about it to his teacher, to his friends, and the teacher did her job. And these are children. There was nothing that they could have did to help him. And the last time Gabriel went to school, he was beaten pretty bad, and it even scared this little girl. And after that, Gabriel was died and never came back to school. So when they found out he died, they didn't. These little children who should be thinking about none of this already knew how Gabriel uh, passed away. Um, so, like I said, this is his father. Um, this is him talking during court, during the trial. Um, no, Donna, she wasn't. She wasn't Donna, but she did a lot for Gabriel to try to keep him safe, but she wasn't the only one. Um, there he is again. This is at sentencing. By the time the trial got to the sentencing part, he was already uh, back in jail. um, this is the uncle Matthew that I was talking about that raised Gabriel at birth until Pearl's parents made him give him up to them because he was gay. This is Matthew. This picture, Gabriel was already living with Pearl and his stepfather. And when we stop showing the crime scene photos and stuff, you'll know, like me and Doris know, you know he's already been living with them for a while because his front teeth are missing. His front teeth are missing because Pearl knocked him out with a baseball bat. So when you see pictures of Gabriel's teeth like this, he had already been living with Pearl and his stepfather for a while. It is said that the happiest Gabriel has ever been in his life is when he lived with his uncle Matthew and his partner David. Um, this is them together. At this time, you're gonna see younger pictures of Gabriel with Matthew and his partner David. So once you start seeing them other photos, you will see what I'm gonna describe right now. Um, at this point, Gabriel is already living with Pearl too. And you can tell because he looks very tired. He's very underweight. He does look malnourished. He looks depressed. Um, where in prior photos with his grandparents, when he was living with them, and with Matthew, he was smiley. He was chunky. He looked healthy. And this,
Yeah, and
I'm going. I'm sorry.
that's right. Just noticing this picture, I didn't see it before, but if you look on the arm where his head is rested, it almost looks like he has a bruise
Right there.
right there. So he may very well have already started being abused at this point.
Right. This is Gabriel as a baby. Again, his uncle Matthew that raised him, and that's his partner David. These two men raised him from the time Pearl abandoned him in the hospital at 3 days old. These men took him on and raised him until the grandparents made them give him up at 4 years old. There's a closer, I wanted to get a more closer up picture so you can see how healthy, how well taken care of these two men took care of this young man, this little boy. In my opinion, I don't think Gabriel should have ever left David and Matthew. You'll find out as I go through more of the notes. I think the effect of them losing Gabriel, in a sense, broke Matthew. This is Matthew again. It destroyed him. It broke his heart. And I think Gabriel was the one that kept him alive. Because not long before Pearl and Tony were convicted of Gabriel's murder, Matthew lost his life. But we'll get into more of that in a little bit. There they are again. This is, again, by now, Gabriel is living with Pearl and his stepfather. This is Gabriel's aunt. This is Pearl's youngest sister. She's the one that started photographing the abuse and bruises on Gabriel. She started staying the night at Pearl's house quite often to protect Gabriel. And as you see, at this time, she's very young.
I was going to say she was a minor herself,
right. So
when this was happening.
Right. So for her to feel the need to stay there to protect her her nephew, it tells you how bad it is. Oh, it was. This is Gabriel's grandparents. This is Pearl's mom, and this is Pearl's dad. Picture was taken right before, a few months prior to them giving Gabriel to Pearl. Yeah. Now, it was said by Matthew and by David that these grandparents, Pearl's mom and dad, did not want nothing to do with Gabriel, even when Pearl was pregnant with him. They wanted no involvement in his life. So, but like I said, we'll get more into that as we go on with the story. This is their father. This is Gabriel. This is the sister. This is Ezekiel, and this is Arnold. All four of these children are Pearl's. All four of these children are Arnold's. These two children right here, Ezekiel and the sister, witnessed the abuse, torture, and then the murder of Gabriel. This is the child that Pearl never raised. She gave it up. But we'll get more into that as we go on too. Again, another picture of Gabriel and Pearl's mom.
Yes, Terry, it wasn't until the 8 months that they tortured him that Pearl actually had custody of Gabriel throughout his whole 8 years.
Right. She only had, like Doris just said, Terry, she only had Gabriel 8 months out of his life.
And apparently throughout that whole 8 months was being investigated from complaints from the family, and the grandparents tried stopping the county or whatever it was that gave her custody back of doing that. So there was an ongoing investigation.
I do believe it was Arnold. I don't think it was Gabriel, but I wasn't able, Doris found most of the information about Arnold, the oldest son. Well, he's not the oldest, he's right before Gabriel. I think he was the one that was removed more than once. The two older children, I'm not sure, the sister and Ezekiel. But I know Gabriel only lived with her 8 months out of his entire life. No, she doesn't deserve the title, Terry. She definitely does not. um, Now, mind you, I told you all Matthew passed away about 6 months, maybe 8 months prior to the conviction of Pearl and her boyfriend's conviction of the murder of Gabriel. Um, this is him just looking terrible right now, Matthew. And again, this is around the time that Gabriel was living with his mom and stepfather. And for every photo we show, you can tell again, I'm going to emphasize this because of his front teeth. Um, they are knocked out and look the way they do because Pearl hit him in the face with the butt of the bat, bong right in his face, and knocked his front teeth out. um, he, I have to go back and look into my notes, but I'm not sure if it was the wooden bat or the heavy plastic bat with the metal inside. I'm not sure which bat, but she knocked him out with a bat. So yeah, that's Matthew and that's his partner David. They are the two original that raised him from birth until he was 4. This is Ezekiel. Ezekiel. This is Arnold, and this is Gabriel's sister today. This picture was just posted a few months ago on the anniversary of Gabriel's death. They released balloons in their brother's honor, but this is them now.
Hot Rod, yes. The boyfriend actually did get a death sentence, but all executions have been put on hold by the governor of California
because of COVID.
So there's no date of his execution. There's none of that, but he is on death row and he did receive a death sentence. Yeah. Pearl pled guilty, so she got life.
Right, without the possibility of parole.
So he's in California. They're not going to kill him because of COVID. So instead of probably just fucking kill California, they'll probably just let him out now.
Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, these are his siblings now. This is the brother that lived with their father's parents. This is his sister, and this is his brother Ezekiel. These two are the one that witnessed the child abuse, the murder, and the torture of their brother. Wow. He is the brother that testified in court about what he saw, the box. He's the one that told them that him and his sister snuck Gabriel a banana because they knew he didn't eat in days. So they pried open the box. They called it the box. It was really just a cabinet in Pearl and her boyfriend's bedroom that Gabriel slept in and was put in there, just to put in there. And they knew that he didn't eat in days and they felt bad. So while Pearl and the boyfriend was out doing something outside, whatever, them two snuck, pulled the cabinet doors apart just enough to slide a banana in. And they made, they even made Gabriel eat the banana peel. So none of them got caught and got beat for feeding him. So yeah, this is them now. He didn't witness his brother being abused. They say his sister suffers the worst out of what she saw in the ordeal. She doesn't get close to people. Them two do suffer from PTSD. But we'll get into more of that. But I do want you guys it was important for you guys to see that these three, Gabriel's siblings, were placed in different homes, grew up a lot better, and have not forgotten about their brother.
Gosh.
Okay, so Go back to the notes here to see why I should continue. So, during that trial, Arnold, the kid's father, spoke fondly and emotionally about his son. He said his son was an energetic young man who loved to run and play. NBC Los Angeles reported from the courtroom. Jurors watched the prosecutor show pictures of Arnold with his son, and Arnold said he was a loving and kind and liked to play cops and robbers in the backyard. Arnold also said that he did not want his son to live with Pearl or the boyfriend. He testified that Pearl had never been affectionate with the boy. Arnold said that it was his understanding that Gabriel's maternal grandparents would be looking after his son, but the plan changed when Fernandez and Tony took him away. NBC Los Angeles reported during the trial. He testified that he still has trouble sleeping because of his son's brutal death, and his life won't be the same again. There is a video that we're going to show, but we're not showing it today, and that is the video that it says here. The below video is reporting an NBC7 of Arnold's testimony, including audio of his testimony. We will be showing that video, but just not this stream. The kid's father did file a wrongful death lawsuit against the family members on July 30th, 2014. The lawsuit states that Gabriel was allowed to remain in the Fernandez and Tony's custody despite over 60 complaints of abuse being filed against the pair. The plaintiffs argued that these complaints were either not investigated at all or to the full extent. They also said that the Department of Public Social Service worker was knowledgeable about the abuse but did not report it because he was interested in going on a date with Pearl. The status of the lawsuit is unclear at this time. Says this lawsuit is separate from another wrongful death lawsuit filed, this one in 2013 by Gabriel's maternal grandparents. According to NBC Los Angeles, Robert and Sandra Fernandez filed a lawsuit saying Gabriel was illegally removed from their home where he lived most of his life into his mother's custody despite over 60 reports of abuse. A number of agencies were named as a defendant in the lawsuit, including the school district, the Department of Children and Family Services, the Department of Public Social Services, and specific social workers.
Jesus. I hope something comes of that. Maybe
I
they'll
do
straighten out a little bit.
I think it was already thrown out of court.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna look more into that and get into that too. Hey, Ariel.
Hi, Ariel. Welcome.
Again, the Nightbot just dropped the Facebook link. That is the Gabriel's Foundations. There's 3 or 4 of them in his name. If you don't have Facebook and you want the information, contact somebody on the panel and we will give it to you. Any questions before we get into the boyfriend?
Wicked Insanity. Hello.
Hello, Mike. And in the wrongful death suit, the caseworker that they are talking about that was trying to go on a date with Pearl, this young man was fired from a couple of counties over for not doing his job correctly in the same building, same, whatever. And this county hired him.
That's fucked.
So I don't know. Like, there's no more information into if it was true, if it was ever found it. And at this point, even if they went to talk to Pearl about it, nothing she says is credible.
Right.
So where do you go from
Piece
there?
of shit.
And he's smart. He's a state official. So there's not gonna. You would think there wouldn't be any emails or text messages, and if he was smart, why would he have to do that? He just had to go to the home and say he was checking on Gabriel.
Right.
You know. Um, these caseworkers were also,
Douchebags.
yeah, they were very much douchebags. They're also being looked into falsifying documents, not just in Gabriel's case, but for other children that were murdered after Gabriel by their parents. Um, One of the investigators in Gabriel's case, the head investigator, she was just placed in this department uh, weeks prior to getting Gabriel's case. She was supposed to be supervised. She wasn't supposed to go by herself, and she did. And it got to the point where she just stopped going and she stopped answering mainly the teacher's phone calls because the Gabriel case was so overwhelming to her. And I'm not excusing her behavior. And to go back to Donna's question, Donna, when you said the teacher was the only one that did her job, that is not true. And I'm going to tell you why that's not true. We're going to get into him. But there was a security guard in the Department of Social Service. Because remind you, Child Protection Services and Department of Social Services is two different buildings, two different agencies. They should work together, closely together, but they don't. Um, Department of Social Services is where you go for like your food stamps, your Medicaid, your housing, your cash, whatever. The Department of Child Protection Services is who you call when you think a child is being neglected or abused. Um, so they're two different places. Pearl went into DSS, which is the Department of Social Service. She had to sign paperwork for her children's food stamps, Medicaid, and cash. When she went there, and this is also what I find funny, knowing that her son Arnold lives with his father's parents. She went in there with all four children and signed paperwork for all four children. When Gabriel walked past the security guard, he pulled down his sleeve, and worded to the security guard, "Help." And he showed the marks on his wrist. At that point, Gabriel had patches of hair missing. You seen the bruises on his neck, and he had a black eye. So the security guard did what he was told to do, and he went to the DSS worker. The DSS worker has to call a supervisor because that's the chain that they have to follow. She called her supervisor, and her supervisor told her, "Do not report this to Child Protective Services. We cannot afford the overtime. You're not allowed to have overtime. Don't get involved." So she was made to punch out and go home. So what the DSS worker did was gave all of Gabriel's information to the security guard. And she explained to the security guard why she couldn't get involved. The security guard said to her, "Are you kidding me? You're a mandated reporter." And she said, "I know, but I can't lose my job." So she handed this stuff to the security guard. The security guard called his supervisor, and his supervisor told him, "This is none of your business. It's not in your job description. Don't get involved." The security guard said, "Fuck this. You didn't see that boy. You didn't see how bad he looked and how scared he looked." He called the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department promised him that they was going out to see him. They went out there all right, but they scared Gabriel and told Gabriel he was lying. And they told this 8-year-old boy if he ever lied again, they were going to put him in the back of the cop car and take him to jail.
Because the parents told Ezekiel and the cops, well, they told Ezekiel to follow their lead and told the cops that Gabriel had gotten into a fight at school. And that's where these bruises were from. And the police believed them over Gabriel.
Right. So this security guard, by doing what he felt was right, thank you, Ken. This security guard, by doing what he felt was right, got fired because he did not mind his business. 3 days later, Gabriel was murdered. So there was other people. I'm gonna put up his picture. Yeah, three days after that phone call that the security guard made, Gabriel was murdered. This is the security guard that called 911. Well, he didn't call 911, he called the sheriff's department directly. We'll get into him later on too, but this is a security guard, like I said, that lost his job for doing the right thing. This is one of the social workers. We'll get into him too. He is one of them that has been very vocal in saying it wasn't his job to protect Gabriel. It was the job of the parents. Gabriel's death is not on him. She was the supervisor. She was in charge of all the caseworkers that went to the house. Her herself had went there. The history on this woman is she was a nun who left the convent. Her own co-worker said she was a miserable woman to work with.
She looks like a fucking miserable woman to work with.
And I believe she was the one that actually closed the case. She's the one that did the final visit, like the month before Gabriel was killed, and closed the case.
Old lady fat arms. She got those weird, like, fat buckle arms on the bottom of the string. Either way, she's dead now or what?
No, she's still alive and well.
But they are going to go back after her because she is also a supervisor in some of the other young children that were murdered by their parents after Gabriel.
It's in California, Wicked Insanity.
Yes.
And what bothers me the most about this woman is when she was interviewed after Gabriel's death, she played the victim.
Right.
She said, "What about me? I lost my job. Because after all these cases, she finally got fired. She was suspended for a short time and then finally got fired and was claiming she lost her house, she lost her job, and just kept repeating it wasn't her fault."
Right. Gabriel's life, Gabriel dying was not her fault. It wasn't her job to protect that child.
Yeah, you look at her face. She's the kind of woman that would say, "It's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's his fault. He wasn't strong enough, or he wasn't smart enough to leave, or you can just. She's evil. Look at her. She'll say something stupid like that. That's the kind of woman that is like, you know, everybody always says like a man shouldn't punch a woman, and like most guys are like, well, there are some exceptions to the fucking rule. Old lady fat arms here. The rule blast that broad right in the fucking mouth because she deserves it.
All right. This is the other caseworker that went to the house that the teacher would call. She was new to the department. She was the one that was not supposed to be doing the home visits without another person with her. Her paperwork was supposed to have been looked over thoroughly, which was by old lady no bra.
Old lady fat arms, yep.
Yeah, well, Susan's calling her old lady no bra, so you know we'll go with that too.
Old lady what?
No bra, because she's not wearing a bra.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's why your arms look so fat, because your tits were pushing the skin over. I don't know.
So
Sorry, go
she
ahead. I'm
was
sorry.
new. She was new to the department,
See what happens.
and the Gabriel case was very overwhelming for her. Now she hasn't spoke much, but she does feel very, very responsible for Gabriel's death.
They
And
all
I
should.
think she is new and she wanted to make an impression. And I think the old lady supervisor there made it very difficult for her.
Right. And
Listen,
being
don't make
new,
excuses for this bitch.
she, in my opinion, was very gullible.
Mm-hmm.
When she would do visits to the house after the teacher would call, Gabriel's mother would lock him in the box and tell her he was out playing. And she would just say, okay, and she would leave and say if she found nothing wrong at the
Matter
house.
of fact, if I'm not mistaken, she went with the supervisor, old lady, no bra, no arms, bad arms, whatever you want to call her, when Gabriel was really messed up. Like he missed 4 weeks of school. He was bruised all over. And I believe she went with the supervisor to check on him. And they said that he fell off a bike.
Yep.
Or something like that. And that's how he got all the marks and patches of hair out of his head. And
it got to the point when the teacher testified, she said every time she called, she didn't want to call again because every time she called the next day, Gabriel would come in looking worse than he did the day before. So they would beat him every time this woman showed up at the house.
But Gabriel would ask her,
right?
Please call that woman.
She said there was one day that Gabriel came in and had, I think it was when his hair was missing, and said to her, can you call that lady again? And she said that was the only way she knew that the social worker went to the house, was because he asked her to call that lady.
What the fuck is wrong with people? This kid's like fucking dying, getting beat fucking mercilessly, and he's trying to get help, and nobody's fucking helping.
And that's the thing that makes this so disturbing, and why we wanted to start with this case, because
who's this douche nugget?
He's the
one. He's another social worker. He was the one fired from one county, and then this county hired him.
He was trying to bed
Pearl. He was the one that was trying
funny lips over there.
Right.
Oh, he's the one.
Yes.
That's weird. I kind of looked at him more like a guy who was checking out Tony than Pearl. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. It's the horn rim glasses, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's the one that was trying to give a Pearl. That's what they're saying.
Well, what is fucking, so that's cool. Let the kid die because you want a piece of pussy.
Yes, daughter. Apparently, from all of the reports,
I love how you say that. You make it sound like
Virginia and Ezekiel, the only time they would get punished is if they were caught helping Gabriel.
Right.
Other than that,
you hate one of your kids so much.
No, but they said they never.
It was a mistake, and everyone's forgetting because we touched on this a little bit when we first started. Arnold, she hated Arnold too.
Oh.
Yep.
And the grandparents said they had no proof. The kid's father's parents said they had no proof. They never saw Pearl beat the kids. But they did see bruises on Arnold himself in particular.
How much more fucking proof do you need, you know?
She admitted, we will get into the notes. She admitted that she hated Arnold. She had no love for him.
So fucked up. Why do you keep having kids?
And that was why.
It was said that they beat it, Gabriel, because they thought he was gay. Because he was raised by the great uncle and his partner. And if Gabriel was caught playing, this is another reason why his sister suffers more than Ezekiel, his brother. Because if Gabriel would get caught playing in her room with him, he would get beat. She testified that, or not, she didn't. Well, maybe she did. I'll have to look into my notes. That no, it was her testimony to the police. She said that she felt bad and she was really sad and angry at herself because of how she treated her brother before he was murdered. And the detective asked her, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Because my brother, hello, Carolina Porn." She said, "My brother didn't know I loved him and I was mean to him." And the detective said to her, "Well, nothing that happened to your brother was your fault." She said, "I wouldn't play with him no more. I wouldn't let him play with me no more." And the
And
detective asked her why. And she said,
Oh my
"Because my mom caught him in the room playing with me,
yep.
and she grabbed him by his hair and pulled him out the room, and he got a beating and was thrown in the box."
Yep.
In the box.
In the box.
They had a
And
fucking
they wouldn't
counter, they
only
locked
put
this
him in
fucking
the
kid
box. They used to hog tie him and gag him and then put him in the box.
So, to your point, Donna, I forgot what Donna even said. So that it was like it's like Stockholm syndrome. That's how I can describe it, Donna. Like the two older kids saw what was happening to Arnold in the beginning, and then they
You know
saw
what
what was
happened to
happening
them.
with Gabriel, and so it was Stockholm syndrome. Like they did whatever they had to do, so they didn't get in trouble. Like you're angry now. Like next week when we get into detail, the crime scene photos,
Yeah.
autopsy photos, all that. If you can't handle this now, I don't advise you to be here because it's getting really graphic next week. Because it has to be shown so no more children die like this. And the agencies and the government that is put in place to protect us are something has to be done and someone has to start speaking out. Because if we can't protect our own children, what good are we? You know,
And
our children are defenseless.
yeah.
Storm is starting.
All right, so this is the one that was fired from a previous agency and then was hired on to this agency in another county. He was the one that was trying to date Pearl.
Yes.
I gotta go backwards because I started with the security guard to show Donna.
Oh, sad tits, sloppy tits. Let's go. This fucking meth head. Yeah. And then what is this? Is that like a Saturday Night Live version of Montel Williams? That guy?
No, that was the
That's Uncle
security guard.
That's Uncle Jesse from Full House. Okay.
This is Gabriel's defense attorney.
So
He
this
was
is the district attorney.
district attorney. This is the one that fought for Gabriel, fought for the death penalty.
Everybody
When
wants to
we get
fight
into
once
the
they're dead.
case, when you get into the case, I have high respect for this man. Because it's not easy doing the job that he does.
And I believe he was the same. So some of the other children that were killed, their parents are also being charged.
Right,
He is the
because of
same
him.
district attorney on
Right.
those cases. At the end of the documentary, he said he was making it his mission.
Why are so many kids getting their ass whooped and getting fucking
This
killed
is one
and
of
hurt
the
by their
reasons
parents in
why
those
we
days?
Hold
did
on,
this.
Tony. Hold on. We're gonna get this man. This is what me and Doris is trying to tell you. This man right now, right here, I have the utmost respect for, because the case of Gabriel, it hit him hard. Like to see the torture that this kid went through and had to go through for 8 months, and then realizing after he got Pearl and Tony convicted, our family came to him and said, "My nephew was just being tortured and murdered too, just a couple of blocks away from where Gabriel was murdered."
And
He
it was
took
the
that on.
same year. It was
The
like
same
3
year.
months after Gabriel's death.
So he took that on, and he said he now, because of this man and what he is starting to do, Department of Social Service, Child Protection Services, the Sheriff's Department, they all are being audited and they are being made
Yeah.
to show everything, their caseload, everything. They are in deep trouble right now. The
And
sheriff's department withholded information from this man that was vital to Gabriel's um, trial and refused to give it to him until this man found out about the information when the judge told him
God.
yep,
that the
and
cops that went to Gabriel's house was under an investigation in the Internal Affairs
They're
office.
trying to cover their own
they
tracks.
were trying to cover it up exactly.
Uh-huh.
And he's the one that went to the district attorney, like the head guy or the head woman, it turns out, and pushed her to bring the charges against the social workers, to hold the social workers just as responsible for ignoring all of the signs and calls and complaints. And much to his fight, those charges were dropped against them this year. I believe it was in
3 months ago.
February.
3 months ago.
Yep.
But in his words, there is other cases that they are involved in. So if they keep bringing them up on different cases and showing a pattern, eventually they're not going to get away with what they did or a lack of what they didn't do.
No, you gotta go tell daddy.
Yeah, go tell daddy. Tell him to get
Don't,
off his
we're talking
slender
about
ass and
child
take you for a
abuse. Don't
walk.
make me beat you while we're on a child abuse stream.
So also these cases he took very personally because he too grew up in an abusive household by his dad.
Yeah, Donna, he tried to get the social workers. He did press charges against them, but unfortunately, the highest Supreme Court in the
Overturned their
state threw it
conviction
out.
3 months ago.
Isn't
But
he
there
John
is hope.
Stamos though? That's fucked up.
He does look like Donnie Stamos, don't he? You think, Tony?
I keep looking at him thinking this is like a clip from a movie.
Yeah.
John
Yeah,
Stamos.
Wendy, I don't know. Over from 2003 until 2012, when Gabriel was killed, they had over 60 complaints just on Gabriel alone. How they could ignore that, I don't know.
This is Gabriel's teacher. This is Jennifer. She was the one that called and called and called and called and would talk to Gabriel. And Gabriel would ask her to call the woman. She did everything she could possibly do to get Gabriel out of that situation. And eventually her call started getting ignored. So
yeah, Wendy, how could anyone? How could anyone? How could everyone? It seems like it's nuts, right?
yeah, it is.
It's crazy,
like
Wendy. You're absolutely right. How can anyone ignore this? This is
Right.
crazy. So many
And
people just swept it under the rug.
Right, and them sheriffs that went to that house, they could have removed that boy automatically. All they had to do was put him in the back of the cop car, call DSS, call the judge, and they could have took that boy away, took him to the hospital. If he was that badly beaten and stuff when they got there, you take him to the hospital. Once he gets to that hospital and they saw him like that, they wasn't going to let him leave that hospital.
Right. And being in healthcare and being a mandated reporter, you're told that you are never to not believe the child. So in my mind, they should have taken him even if there was a possibility that it was a fight at school and he was mad at his mother and saying she did it. Simply because what else are they going to say? Of course, they're going to say, no, we didn't do this.
And Donna, next Friday, I found copies of the Child Protective Services reports that we are going to show. In this case, it wasn't that there was a lack of evidence. There was a lot of evidence.
And you'll see in some of the other cases we talk about later on that it wasn't only Gabriel that they had tons of evidence on. that they ignored or didn't act upon. This is one of the bigger issues that we wanted to cover.
It's not just the judicial system, Donna. It's our government in whole. It's our judicial system is where it, and with Gabriel's case, our judicial, it shouldn't have made it to our judicial
Right.
system. It shouldn't never have gotten that far.
There were three different entities that were involved in this whole thing that did nothing.
Right. So it's not, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Our judicial system does suck, but let's start where the blame begins. The top priority of this child's death and murder and abuse starts, in my mind, and this is just my opinion, it starts with Pearl's parents because they know exactly how their daughter was. Why give them? The DSS didn't walk in there, Child Services didn't walk in there and take Gabriel and give him the Pearl. They gave Gabriel the Pearl, knowing how their daughter was. So for me, it starts at the grandparents. You could have left Gabriel with Michael and David, where he was happy, where he was being taken care of, where he was healthy. Could have just left them alone. No.
And I never, I saw a paper that Pearl had signed giving custody to her parents. I never saw any legal paperwork. That doesn't mean it didn't exist.
David.
Of her getting custody back.
Right.
So legally, they could very well have still had custody of
hold
that boy.
on. It depends on how far the grandparents took it, because David has a copy of where she signed Gabriel over to Michael and him at birth.
Well, this was the one that I saw was from a court that said she was giving up all of her parental rights to the parents.
Right. Well, see, and that's the thing. You took him out of a wonderful home where he was being taken care of, where he was healthy, where he was happy, where he was growing, where he was prospering. And then you take him. And then you give him to your daughter. You already know never wanted your other grandson, Arnold, who was a year older than Gabriel. And then you give her Gabriel. Now, there's no way in my mind you're going to convince me that this family didn't know that she was getting money and benefits to all 4 kids, even though she only had 3 living with her. Because why would you need all 4 of them to go to the DSS office?
Right.
And so you knew how she was with Arnold. There has been plenty of times you had Gabriel. I just showed pictures of Gabriel and Matthew, where he was already being abused, a bruise on his wrist. The aunt took a picture of the black eye and the busted lip. Take him fucking back.
Right.
As a family member, all you got to do is go in, take the kid.
Yep.
Pretend,
and take it to court the next business
Clearly,
day.
she was letting you guys take Gabriel. So when you took him there, why didn't you keep him and not send him back?
Yep.
What's she gonna do? Call the cops? All you gotta do is show them and let Gabriel talk. Take Gabriel to the hospital. At that point, they're gonna look and see this is child abuse. The kid's not going home.
Donna, with the marks this boy had on him, there's no way that they did not know and that they did not see.
Right. It was bad, Donna. It was very, very
If
bad.
a security guard who saw this boy once could tell he was being abused, the family members that saw him on a regular basis knew.
Of course they knew.
And the grandfather testified that every time they took him, when it was time for him to go back, he would scream and cry and say, please don't send me back. Please let me stay here.
And then he'd make a scene in front of me and they'd throw him in the fucking box for it.
Yep.
So, Donna, what I'm saying is that you're not wrong, but it started with the family. And then it goes to DSS and Child Services and the Sheriff's Department, because it could have stopped with them 3 agencies. It could have stopped. It didn't have to get to the judicial system. This child shouldn't have been murdered. There's no way he should have went through the torture he went through in just 8 months living with his mother. And yes, when it got to the judicial system, Pearl and her boyfriend were convicted, But then caseworkers need to be held responsible too.
Right. Like no one else involved that ignored anything. The police officers, the 4 police officers that went to the house, all it said was there was an internal investigation and they were punished internally. They still have their jobs.
And these 4 police officers, they all didn't go to Gabriel's house at once. These are 4 different phone calls. Okay? So, just say. Now, Donna, this is the ER nurse that saw Gabriel the night he came in after the final beating that killed him. This is the ER nurse. This is her 5 years later talking about what she saw when Gabriel was brought into that hospital. And it just wasn't the fresh injuries that upsetted her. It was the injuries that were healing, that were partially healed, that it was bad. This boy was shot with BB guns. It was bad. What this woman saw in this 8-year-old body made her, when she talked about Gabriel, look like this, just talking about him.
Yeah.
This is the ER nurse. They seen him before they pronounced him brain dead, and they took him to the children's hospital.
She said he was so bad she couldn't even do a full assessment on him because she was afraid to touch him.
And that's just not from the injuries that happened that night that caused his death. It was the injuries that literally were from head to toe, arms, hands, and fingers. There wasn't a spot on this boy's body that wasn't scarred, bruised, scraped, burned. Yeah. And he was severely underweight. And she even said, the ER nurse even said that you could tell he was malnourished. The content of this boy's stomach when the man did the autopsy was cat litter.
Yep. Yep. That was pretty much all that was in his stomach. And when the brother testified, he testified when they would feed him, it was either cat litter, cat poop, or they would make him eat spoiled food. And he said he remembered one incident in particular. They fed Gabriel bad spinach.
Mm-hmm.
And when he vomited, they made him eat the vomit.
And if Gabriel did not clean the cat litter to their liking, he was made to eat the cat litter. And when the detectives asked Ezekiel, what if Gabriel said no? What if he wouldn't eat it? He said, oh, Gabriel had no choice. It was either he eat it or they beat him.
Yes, Susan, cat litter and cat poop. The coroner said that he even went out and bought different brands of cat litter to make sure that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he could compare the stomach contents to different brands of cat litter.
Hey, I'm gonna jump off. We're getting hit with that tropical storm right now. It's just rolling in.
Okay.
I keep hearing a bunch of noises, and it's got to be the wind outside.
I was going to say, you're looking around like there's somebody coming to get you.
Yeah, I keep hearing these big bangs, and my dog's whimpering in the other room, so I think he's scared. So I'm going to bring him in the living room and keep him with me tonight.
Thank you for
make
joining
sure everything's battened down. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry it wasn't much input. This is an amazing story, and it absolutely destroyed my brain. That's just so, it was so sad. But I will catch you guys soon. I'll be around tomorrow night, I'm sure.
Right.
Thanks, Tony.
So. Have a good night, Night Bashful.
Good night. Be safe.
All right, you too. See ya.
All right, so like I said, this is the ER nurse. She was the last one to see Gabriel, besides the rest of the medical team, before they pronounced him brain dead. Um, yeah, mine too. This was, I don't, this, when we decided to do this, and I brought it to Bashful first, it's not an easy topic to talk about. It's not for me, for Bashful, for Doris. It's not. When we get into the rest of it, it gets even harder, Wendy.
Yes.
And but at the same time, I don't. I feel like I said earlier, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be said because there is parents. There is no guidelines to tell us what makes us good parents and like, for example, I can't get pregnant and nobody can come in automatically and say, oh, you can't have that child, this is what's going to happen. Nobody knows until an individual has a child. Sometimes you do know, sometimes you can tell, but so there's no government that comes in right away and say, no, you can't have a child because you don't, you know. But there is government in the, agencies that is put in place for after you have your child,
Yeah.
for things like this that can happen.
Excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, Gaffa. This was one of the reasons why we decided to break it up into 3 streams, was because it is very disturbing and we didn't want to overload people, and because a lot of people do have personal stories to go along with it, and it can
Right,
bring
and you
back
have
memories
children.
and
A lot of
or
people have
even
children.
just having children or being in medical or being even a social worker and knowing that side of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I understand completely if you need to leave.
Right.
But that was why we tried to make it a point earlier on the stream to say if you needed to leave, to just leave, and
Right.
we understand.
And we also made it a point earlier to warn everybody that if just us reading off our notes and showing a little bit of pictures that we've shown tonight is too much. It's probably not. I mean, we want as many people here. Don't get us wrong, to help spread the story and to help maybe make some money for Gabriel's foundation and stuff. And for more people to be aware of what's actually going on. But at the same time, next week is going to be even more
Right.
graphic and more detail.
And one of the reasons I was very psyched about when Lisa asked me is because they, with everyone being locked in, you have to realize for a lot of children that are abused, their only getaway is school.
Right.
So not being in school, they're stuck with their abusers 24/7, which only in most cases makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah,
was
sadly.
why I thought it was very important to do this with Bashful and Lisa.
Yeah, sadly, the child abuse numbers have gone up since this coronavirus lockdown has went on. So is domestic violent cases.
I was going to say domestic violence as well.
Yeah.
Spousal abuse, partner abuse, even elderly abuse.
Hello, my beautiful Wendy.
Mm-hmm. Just gonna go back to some precious pictures of Gabriel because I need to get the image of what he looked like. I don't know. I think this case is very important to me. Because I had my run-ins with DSS and they wasn't very good ones. And the Department of Child Protective Services. And also because I am a child of physical and mental abuse. And growing up, when I grew up, and I know I'm about to be 40 in October, and back when I was a kid in the 80s, you didn't tell what happened in your home. You didn't talk about nothing that went on in your home. That was a big no-no. And a lot of times it felt like people didn't care. So my dad would get drunk and beat the shit out of me and my mother, and I would lie about why I got the bruises. I was out of school for 4 weeks because my dad beat me with an extension cord, one of them thick outdoor ones. And you just didn't talk about it. You just didn't say nothing, And when I first saw and started looking into the Gabriel case, I thought to myself that could have been me. You know what I mean? I'm grateful it wasn't because my mom's brother, youngest brother, kind of caught on what was going on and he stepped in. But that could have been me. That could have. Um, so this case has a different meaning for me. And I know a lot of people don't. They run away from it because of the abuse in their childhood and they can't deal with it. But with me, I've always been the opposite. Like I try to make something good out of my bad that's happened to me because if I don't, it's gonna stay in my head and it's gonna eat me inside.
Yeah. Like with me, I wasn't abused, but my parents were alcoholics, and my father used to abuse my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's me. My dad used to abuse my mom. He never abused us.
Right.
Not physically abused us. He mentally abused us, but not physically.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough that my best friend's mother would always, whenever I needed to, I could go to her house because she knew.
Right.
So that was my escape. I could stay there as long as I needed to. She never, if I didn't want to go home, she never made me go home. I remember once I was there a whole summer. My parents never looked for me.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And when you're instilled them values of not speaking, you don't speak because you don't want to bring shame to, especially to my mother. My mother, how we appeared to everybody on the outside of our home meant more to her than what was actually going on inside of our home, And I was molested by a family member, and that it went on for 5 years. And when I finally said something to somebody who was my mother's father, and he asked me, did I tell my mom? And I said no, because she won't believe me or she'll be mad at me. And the only reason I remember this, a lot of my abuse I don't remember, but I remember him wanting to take me to the fair, and my abuser, and I remember dropping to the floor with my grandfather in the house because I knew if I did it when my grandfather was there, I wouldn't have had to go. My grandfather wouldn't let my mother. My grandfather would have made sure I didn't go. So I dropped to the floor and threw a temper tantrum because I didn't want to go with him, and my mother was still trying to make me, and her dad yelled at her, and so I didn't have to go, and he took me to his house. And that night at his house, I told him what happened, what was going on, and why I was acting like that. And he brought me home the next morning and sat down at the table and made my mother listen to me. And by then it was already the 5th year it was happening. So, like I said before, I try to take what bad has happened in my life and my bad memories and turn it into something good, something positive. Before, and this is what I worry about for Gabriel's siblings and a lot of children that go through this, because a lot of children that have been through abuse, one or two things happen. They become an abuser themselves, or they're so mentally fucked up that they become an addict of one way or another. And my first choice was alcohol and marijuana when I was younger. And then I became a mother and I realized I don't want to put my kids through what I lived through. And it was hard. And even now, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. When my husband left, the first thing I wanted to do was get drunk and get high because, I lost my best friend. I lost everything. I felt like my world was over. And the only thing I had left was my kids. And because I was going through all that mental shit, I thought to myself, well, how long before they're taken from you too? So I worry for Gabriel's siblings that are they getting the proper mental health?
Right.
Are they being treated, especially Ezekiel and his sister who lived and seen everything that happened to Gabriel. You know what I mean? And being so young and feeling so helpless, Um, and for Arnold, because how he must feel to know that his mother gave him up because she didn't want him, she didn't love him. How does he feel knowing your own mother felt that way about you, about, a child? Because I don't foresee Gabriel's family not keeping that kind of facts away from a child.
Right.
I see them telling, you know. So I just worry about all the children in this situation. Well, they're not children now; they're practically all grown.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little. It makes me feel a little better that the uncle that has them recently granted an interview and did give updates on Virginia and Ezekiel. And he did say that they have been in counseling since, and that he sees progress
Mm-hmm.
more recently of them like opening up. So hopefully,
There's going to be so much survival guilt in that
and
situation.
he said
guilt,
that's the biggest thing is they
Yeah.
have a lot of guilt.
Because
yeah, 'cause they felt like they're going to feel like they could have done something, which
right. Well, his
more
sister,
likely they couldn't have.
his sister felt that way 2 days after her brother died, and the
Right.
detectives came and talked to her. She
You
already
missed that part, Bashful, when we talked about that part.
She already
Yeah.
felt that 2 days after her brother died. She
Oh
felt
yeah.
that.
Because he would get beaten for playing with her in her room.
I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. I'll be right back.
All right.
You ladies can take over. You got this. Bash was here, so I don't feel so bad about leaving you doors.
But yeah, that was one of the reasons we wanted to do the story, was just because for a lot of people it touches home. Like just the people in chat or on panel, we all have a story. And like I said, with everything going on in the world, it just is happening more and more. And it's kind of like the if you see something, say something thing.
Exactly.
You could be the one that saves a child's life.
Exactly. I think there are certain states where everybody is a mandated reporter. I know because of where I work now, I'm a mandated reporter. If I see something and I don't say something, I can get in trouble.
Yep.
You know, morally, I would say something if I saw something. And I think that everyone should. I know that there were a lot of people in this case that were saying things and that were getting ignored, but you just still have to keep saying things. You can't just say, well, nobody's going to say or nobody's going to do anything about it, so why should I run my mouth about it? Well, because you have to.
And that was the teacher had said that was her dilemma. She knew she had to report it, even though she felt guilty in a way of reporting it, because she could tell that every time she did and they went there, Gabriel would get beaten more.
Right.
And she was like, and apparently the social workers weren't doing anything other than going there. And she was like, it just made me not want to call anymore.
Right.
But
I wish the documentary would have done more about like presenting like their cases when they were actually in court. I wanted to hear like more from the caseworkers, just explain why they just like ignored it. Like it makes no sense to me how you could have a child's safety in your hands like that and just, look the other way.
Right. I mean, and that's my thing, like, especially when the young social worker had said that the majority of the times that the mother would tell her Gabriel was out playing. I've never been in that circumstance, but if it was me, I feel like I would be like, okay, well, let's go find him.
Right.
Because your job is to see the child.
Right.
And she would report that she found no evidence of abuse, even though she never laid eyes on him because he was locked in the freaking cabinet.
Yeah.
All right, chat, how you doing? Everybody's been so quiet.
They have. They just stopped talking.
Is anybody having sensory overload?
It is a lot to take in, and it's sad that
is.
this is just one story.
Yeah.
And there's so many stories of cases just like this. I went to a school with a girl who had a 3-year-old, and she got involved with this guy, and people started reporting that they saw, cigar burns and all kinds of abuse on this child. And they took the kid away from her and gave the kid to her parents. And she did her little parenting classes and all that stuff and got the kid back. And was told, you're never allowed to leave this child alone with that man. They knew this man was still in the home. And they give the kid back to her. And then there was more bruising, more abuse, took the kid back out of the home, give it back to the grandma. She did the whole process all over again. They give the kid back to her, like with the grandmother begging, please don't do this. I worked with the grandmother too. And the grandmother was begging, please don't do this. Don't put this kid back in the home with that man. And they did anyways. And she went to the store one day, and while she was gone to the store, he hit this kid so hard in the head that it killed this child. And in that case, because there was so much reporting and so many things that the caseworkers failed to do, they tried to prosecute them as well. And sadly, they didn't succeed in that. They tried to get the caseworkers for complicity to commit murder. That's exactly what they got the mother for. Right. Maybe if they tried a different charge, they would have been able to be successful with it. But
I believe with this case, they charged the social workers with child abuse and falsifying legal documents.
Yeah.
And it was still thrown out.
All right, I just want to remind the chat that the Facebook link that Nightbot just dropped is to Gabriel's page, where you can get the information and where you can donate if you wish to one of his 4 foundations in his name. If you don't have a Facebook and you want to look at it, you can contact one of us on the panel, and I will make sure Doris and Bashel has the information, the screenshots of it. It is legit. There is even a tax write-off number, a tax ID number. So like I said, if you don't have Facebook and you want the information, I do have screenshots from the page that I would be willing to share with you, or someone on the panel tonight would be willing to share with you. Before I end this and go on, if we're done with it, and go on to end this stream and go on to a regular roundtable shenanigans stream, I do want to go over the notes I have on the stepfather, because I want everyone to understand how big this man was compared to Gabriel. So it's very important. I don't want to overload and upset anybody anymore, but it is very important that everyone knows and the size difference. And want everyone to remember that Gabriel by this time was very malnourished. He was underweight. He was already in a fragile state prior. Yeah. All right, so
yes, Wendy, they do.
Yeah, they do. They really do. They just, yeah. Okay, so Tony is what they call him, the stepfather. He was born on June 13th, 1980. Tony repeated 2 grades in school and ultimately dropped out, implying a possible learning disability. He worked for Woodland Park Retirement Hotel, where he was a caregiver and a driver. Executive director of the retirement home and former boss of Tony, Susan Weisbarth, described him as quiet, down-to-earth, nice person, also willing to help. She also commented that throughout his 3-year employment, he was patient and loving, and would commonly change the diapers of the elderly residents at the facility. The staff and the facility nicknamed him Shaggy, which was, according to Weisbarth, a term referencing him as endearment. Ex-co-worker Charlene, who also worked at Woodland Park Retirement Hotel, noted that while Tony was driving residents, he would often drive them the scenic route so they could get to see views other than the freeway. In October of 2012, Tony began working as a security guard for AVL, a private security. Through AVL, he worked at a Valetarian market in Palmdale, California. Tony met Pearl roughly a year and a half to 2 years before they took custody of Gabriel. Tony is 6'2". He's 6'2" tall. Tony was charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances of the torture and murder of Gabriel. He pled not guilty. However, the jury found him guilty and recommended he be sentenced to death, which was accepted by the Superior Court judge. He was admitted to San Quentin State Prison on June 13, 2018, where he is currently awaiting execution. However, his execution has yet to be set in accordance with the moratorium on capital punishment issued by the California governor. Like we said earlier, because of COVID, they're not doing the executions right now on anybody.
Hey, God forbid should they get COVID before they get executed.
Right.
We don't want that.
I'll talk a little. We don't have to really talk about this today. This is basically what we said earlier about how at 3 days she'd been in the hospital and the great uncle and partner took him.
All right, hold on for a second. Captain, what the hell? You said hi to Bashful. You said hi to Lisa. You said hi to every damn person in chat. What the hell? Captain.
Yay.
So, about the great uncle Michael. Just 16 months after Gabriel's death, 46-year-old Michael died on September 17, 2014. It is unclear the cause of his death. His partner David now lives in the country's capital of San Salvador.
Oh, I thought you froze, Lisa. No. I'm like, did she freeze?
All right, so it says, while living with Pearl also lived his brother Ezekiel and his sister Virginia. The fourth child, whose name Arnold, is living with the biological father's parents. How do you say the mom's name again, Doris?
Prashita. It's like F. It's just the way it's spelled with F.
Yeah, it's Placida.
So yeah, like Flacita.
Yeah.
And then the father's name is Ricardo, I believe.
The grandparents said Pearl abandoned Arnold years before Gabriel's abuse. They said Pearl told them, she told us that she did not love Arnold because she suffered so much during his delivery that she did not love him. and that she did not, that she did not love him, and that is why she gave him us. They said that they never saw Paul hurt her children, but with Arnold, they once noted bruises and neglect. So, yeah, that's the end of the notes for this part of uh, stream for Gabriel.
So
okay,
Wendy, it might be a new stream when you come back.
Right.
Just a heads up, girlfriend.
So again, before I end this stream and start another one so we can do the roundtable shenanigans, I just want to remind everybody again that tonight is all about Gabriel. None of the proceeds or money that is made from ad revenue, super chat, is going to the roundtable. We are not trying to profit off this boy's story. That is not our intention. Our intention is to get the story out there, to make people aware of what is going on. So every time we do a stream about one of these children, it is the proceeds, the money, whatever we make goes to them. Because we don't want to profit off them. We're not trying to make our channel bigger. We're not trying to make money off these children's horrific death and torture. We just want their stories out there so there's awareness.
Yeah. My thought was if a particular child we cover that gets donations during the stream, if there's no foundation for that particular child's name, we can always pick a child's abuse foundation to donate it to.
Right.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
No, but I do want to make that known because I know people are gonna come back and see this stream and think, oh, look at them, they're trying to make money and grow their channel off this child's murder. No, that is not what the roundtable is doing. That has never been our intention when we decide to cover Gabriel's story and the other children. Our intention was to get Gabriel's story out and these children's story out because they were not taken care of properly. These children should not have been murdered. It should not have went as far as it gotten. And what is sad is in this county alone, even after Gabriel's death, and as much attention as this case got, it still is happening. As of last year, a month ago, whatever it was, an 8-month-old child was allowed to be murdered with the same Child Protective Service agency. So something needs to be done.
And the worst thing was in the documentary that came out this year on Gabriel, they had said how this agency had made all kinds of changes to prevent this from happening. But apparently the changes didn't.
Personally, I think it's bullshit. I personally think because there was another little boy that lived 3 or 4 blocks away from Gabriel that was tortured and murdered by his parents not long after Gabriel.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there was no changes made. It's the same. And in some of these cases, it was the same fucking social workers.
And Kenneth, it would be nice if something like that would happen. But according to the teacher, if Gabriel were alive, she said that more than likely, and the grandfather said the same thing, more than likely he would not have wanted his 2 abusers to be punished.
No.
Because that was the type of boy he was.
There is, and you'll see, and if Bashful and they want me to show it tonight, I will, so you know the character of this 8-year-old boy that was being tortured every day for 8 months. On Mother's Day, and every time I see this Mother's Day card, I cry. On Mother's Day, he made a Mother's Day card for his mother. Well, in school, he was going to give it to his mother for his Mother's Day. And he wrote in this Mother's Day card how much he loved his mom and how beautiful she was. And in this Mother's Day card, there was coupons. And in one of the coupons he was going to give his mother, he wrote on there, I will be good for a whole day. And then another one was a coupon to give to her, and it said he just wanted to spend a day with just her. Why does
Yeah,
it?
and that's the case. A lot of kids who are abused, they love their parents. They hope at some point they change and have the parent that they dream of, and
Right.
it doesn't happen a lot.
And he never
But it
made it.
could be a resource for parents to better their situation, and when things are being neglected and things are being overlooked, and these parents don't get the help that they need, and then you lose a child because people aren't doing their jobs.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take care of kids, don't get in these jobs.
Right.
In Tennessee, in order to be a caseworker, all you really have to have is a bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what your bachelor's degree is in.
Same thing here.
As long as you have a bachelor's degree.
Yep.
And Gabriel was never able to give his mother that Mother's Day card because he was murdered before he could get back to school and get the card.
Yep. The
And when his
teacher
teacher cleaned out his desk, that's the first thing she saw.
And I believe I think they took it for evidence, but I believe she kept a copy of it too, didn't she?
Yeah. And next week when we do the live stream for Gabriel, you'll see pictures of him holding up pictures that the teacher was doing with all the students. But in Gabriel's case, she took these pictures also for photo evidence of the abuse and the bruises of Gabriel. They put together these pictures, and they're holding the letters, and when all the pictures come together, it spells mom. Gabriel was bruised literally from the top of his head to his feet.
And that was when he was missing chunks of hair.
Right.
It was shortly before he died. Like Lisa said, he never got the chance to give his mother things because he was killed beforehand. So it was literally maybe days before he was killed.
He proudly, knowing how bad he looked, he proudly stood up and took them pictures, smiling and happy.
Making funny faces.
For his mother.
Because he asked his teacher if one of the pictures could be a funny face picture. And she said yes.
And, we'll get it. And Ken, it's funny you say that about the guy that Pearl's boyfriend, because let's just say the female prison that Pearl is in wasn't as accepting as the male prison Tony's in.
Right. Well, and Tony's on death row, so he's segregated from the other inmates.
And for Pearl, the CO kind of set her up to let the other female inmates know what she was in there for.
Right, because apparently, and this really does happen, they will try to hide their charges when it's a child abuse or abuse against elderly. They'll say they're in there for something else. And usually it is a staff member that usually has to let it slip.
The prison inmate that was with her, that was a part of the beating. I had watched this other YouTuber that was also following this case. He interviewed her.
I saw that too.
Yeah, and I found out about him because of that woman, Captain Napton. She introduced me to him because she follows him, and she sometimes rebroadcasts his streams because she's allowed to.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm glad you guys appreciate it. And
that female inmate said that the reason why the CO kind of let it slip when they were handing out meds that day is because Pearl was just being a bitch, and she was being very arrogant. And she said Pearl has this attitude where she's beautiful and blah blah blah. She did, and there's videos. If you look up Pearl Fernandez, they leaked videos from her inside the prison, and you can see she is a pleasant little thing. Let me tell you. So I guess the guard was like, you know, you seen this is how she said the CO said it to them when they were handing out meds. She said, you know, Paul, you seem to be awful happy and bubbly and proud of yourself for murdering your son, for being in here for murdering your son. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to top it off, reportedly, Pearl was already on the bad side of a few of the other inmates because she had been stealing from them.
Mm-hmm.
So they already did not like her.
So let's just say, right, Pearl was in the infirmary, according to this female inmate that was a part of the beating and was very proud to say she was. Pearl was in the infirmary for a while, and she said, let's just say you won't be seeing recent pictures of Pearl, and when you do, her face won't look like it did when she first went into prison.
Yeah, and she said it basically took a move team to get Pearl out of the chow hall where the attack happened.
Oh,
yeah,
I can't
be sympathetic. I can't be sympathetic with that at all. Like,
I can't be neither.
I wish I was there to like smack her around.
You smile on my face when I was telling the story. I can't be sympathetic. I just can't. I can't.
Trust me, Wendy. They're doing some of this, watching the documentary itself, and then doing research afterwards. I bawled my eyes out.
I do too.
And
doing the research for this, I cried like right now. Like next week when we do the crime scene and you see the pictures of Gabriel in the hospital, I'm not gonna promise you I'm not gonna cry because that boy, like thinking about it now, I want to cry. That I can't imagine. I can't. Like I look at Gabriel and I see my sons. You know what I mean? And I can't, for the life of me, I don't understand how he could have been still so loving and so happy and go through the torture he endured every day for 8 months because that abuse started almost as soon as he entered that home.
Yep. A few of the family members said the only reason Pearl wanted him was for the money, like Lisa said. So it was definitely doing research in spurts. You definitely could not do it too long, which is also one of the reasons we decided to break the stream up into a series, because it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to hear and see and think about.
Right. And that's why Gabriel's picture's up instead of ours, because this isn't about us. This is about Gabriel.
Yeah, some of the pictures, Wicked Insanity, he is so adorable in. Like he poses like a little pimp master. And
this is one of my favorite pictures of Gabriel.
I love the one with the hat on, the little hat with the feather in it.
Yes, and I love that one too. This picture right here, I mean, they're cute, but this one here, again, because you could tell by the front teeth, the abuse had already started. So Susan, I just want to warn you because I know how passionate you get on things. Next Friday's stream for Gabriel isn't going to be as easy. I mean, this one wasn't easy to talk about or to handle, but next week is going to be
right. Next week, you guys will be seeing things as well as, because we're going to be showing some of the dramatic pictures, like Lisa said. We're going to be showing the room that it happened in. We're going to go more into comments and interviews that both Tony and the mother gave. And the autopsy. And so it's definitely
going to make you very angry.
Yes.
Right. And this is what we ask again, we ask that if you get angry, it's fine to be angry and it's all right to comment angrily, but please, please, please remember that even though we're angry, I'm angry too. Vashel's gotten angry. Doris has gotten angry through this whole thing. But in hindsight, we are doing this for Gabriel. We are doing this for these children because that stuff isn't being done right. And
right. The more it's talked about, the more
right.
people in general will push for change, and maybe changes will actually happen.
Right. So
that's why we're doing this.
So it's okay to comment angrily. Like tonight, no one has said nothing when people comment angrily and whatever, as long as you all remember to respect the stream and remember that it is for this little boy. I don't want it to be come back and be looked at as we were disrespecting this child,
right,
or his family in any way. You know what I mean? So it's okay to be angry at the situation. It's okay to be yelling and cursing. We don't care about that in the chat as long as it's reasonable.
Right. Like if there's a bunch of bashing going on, right, the stream will end up getting pulled down and then we're not helping anybody.
Right, exactly.
Just remember that.
Right. And when people get angry, they start fighting amongst each other, and we also don't want that in the chat. You know, and like I said earlier, we are doing this out of respect for Gabriel and his family, and to spread awareness. So I don't want that to be taken away,
right,
because of people getting angry at each other and fighting each other among the chat and being disrespectful.
Right. So just nothing personal, no personal attacks against the people involved in the story, against anyone in stream or on panel. It's a very touchy subject all around. So,
and like for an example, when I talked about how in my opinion, the family failed him, there could have been, and trust me, there was a lot more I wanted to say, but out of respect for this family who had lost this young boy, I kept it respectful, because I don't, not that it ever happened, but you never know. I don't want, if any of the family members come back, to see that we were attacking them and we were bashing them because they lost their family member, their cousin, their nephew, their grandson, whatever. You know what I mean? So in hindsight, even though I feel that they should have stepped in and to help this little boy, at the end of the day, that's still his family and they still lost their loved one. So it has to be a balance of respect for the family. If I'm making sense. Am I making sense?
You are.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, we're just trying to keep it all legit and make sure that we do justice for not only Gabriel, but all the other children too.
If I could grant you that permission, Ken, I most definitely would. I bet you if you watch next week's stream, you're definitely going to want to find a way to have a conversation. You may have to talk to Monica. No, I'm joking. All right. So if there's no more questions in the chat, I'm going to end this stream. Like I said earlier, we're going to end this stream because this stream is strictly for Gabriel and his story. And we're going to restart a new stream to restart the roundtable shenanigans. So if there's no more questions in chat, nothing else that wants to be said.
I just want to say thank you guys. I'm not going to be going into the roundtable shenanigans. I have to work tomorrow, so.
Okay, thank you for joining us, Doris.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
But thank you all for coming and listening, and I will be there next week. And next week, I promise I'll join in with the roundtable shenanigans.
Right, before I end this, I'm going to play this one last time before you leave, Doris, before I end the stream, just because I'm using other people's pictures and, you know.
All right.
Okay, everyone, we'll see you in a
Alright.
couple of minutes over on the Roundtable Shenanigans. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the respect and love that was shown in this chat. It's greatly appreciated from the Roundtable. And we'll see you all in a couple of minutes for the
All
Roundtable
right.
Shenanigans.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.